All right, hello guys. Hopefully we are live. Let me make sure we're good on YouTube. Um, so I can check all that, make sure I'm not just talking to myself. But let me check, see if we're good here. All right, I think we should be good. Hi Mar. I enjoy the simple Q&A. I'm glad you guys enjoy this. It is easier for me to do. It's not as much as like prep work before the actual like stream. But I kind of like these. I also do like doing some of the other stuff, but I wanted to take a break from it, and I also thought, might as well just do some House of the Dragon type stuff. I don't know if chat's gonna work because chat was really buggy in the last stream too. So we'll kind of tinker with that. I'm gonna give it one more try in this stream, and if it doesn't work, I'll kind of go back to the other format where I had it before, where it was like I would just put the YouTube like chat box like into the actual stream overlay instead of just relying on Streamlabs to pick up my chat, but we'll see. Hi Evie, how are you? Guys, words just came out of my mouth. But guys, I got my tea again like usual, but I also got I got a Star Wars cup. So, I got this for my dad when it was like a couple Christmases ago, right? And normally you just see the lightsaber hilts. So you see like the hilts here. You'd only see the hilts, but when it gets hot, the lightsaber actually goes up, which I think is really cool. Hi Joel. Have you read the Conan the Barbarian stories by Robert E. Howard? I have not. I will be completely honest, guys. I think a lot of you guys know this. Outside of like A Song of Ice and Fire, more of the mainstream stuff, I haven't read a lot of books. I'd like to get into them more, but I just haven't. Hi Hugo. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. My dad never uses this cup, really, so I decided to use it, but, you know. But we have a lot of questions on House of the Dragon that you guys answered in my community tab. So again, if you guys ever want to ask me a question and I'm doing a Q&A, that will always be the place to go. So let me go over to the questions, and I will start with our first one. And a lot of questions kind of about like Rhaenyra and Alicent's relationship, so we might group those together. But, you know, if you guys have any questions during the stream as well, go ahead and ask them. I will do my best to respond to them. But, yeah, so getting into it. The first question comes from Zol Psycho. Hopefully I said that correct. And they had two questions. One, with some of the characterization choices for Daemon and Rhaenyra, where do you see the show going with them for season 2? So, this is a tough question because a lot of people asked me on this idea of where do you think these characters are going to go, or where do you want them to go? Now, the problem for me is the way I want them to go is not necessarily the way I think they're going to go just based upon season 1. Because season 1, my major gripe with a lot of the characters felt like they weren't fully fledged out. So characters like Rhaenyra were kind of one note to a degree. Characters like Daemon kind of felt one note, like he's just a dick all the time. He's a villain all the time. He doesn't really have like any extra motivation or anything like that. And for a character like Daemon, I kind of think it's too late because a lot of his plot or a lot of his character growth should have came in season 1 and also before season 1. So at this point, I think Daemon's kind of locked into how they've made him. Now, Rhaenyra is a character I want them to lean heavily into her darker side. I want her to be more angry, vicious, to a degree cruel, off of what's going to happen in season 2. And again, I want to preference this by saying there will be spoilers in this stream about the future seasons. I'll do my best to maybe not reveal all of them, but I want Rhaenyra to grow as a character, not be this same character that's kind of just the good character of the show. And I feel like maybe that they now have this great audience, like House of the Dragon did really well in its first season, that maybe they won't be as afraid to do things like dabbling into the morally gray complexities of Rhaenyra's character, because Rhaenyra already is being compared to Daenerys. And the issue with that is, well, Daenerys, her end plot wasn't received well. And I hope they just understand that that wasn't because we didn't like that Daenerys turned to a villain or a morally, not really, but it's because they didn't do it right. So I hope they kind of go into Rhaenyra's psyche. I guess if we're going to talk about Daemon, I want to see a lot of Daemon's military experience and how he has kind of grown into this amazing general. We've seen bits and pieces of that over time, but I really want to focus on that in this season and show kind of how Daemon really is the driving force behind Rhaenyra's camp. How long is the stream going to be? I'm not sure. It depends how long it takes me to get through the questions, how many questions you guys have. So this one just kind of depends on, I guess, how quickly I get through things, Jesse. But hi, Jesse. Also, hi, Joel, as well, again. I've been busy watching 1,000 episodes of Dragon Ball with my younger brother in the past few months. That's why I've been absent. You are good, Hugo, and I'm glad you're spending some good old time with your brother. Where's Luke? He reminds me of someone I know. Luke has not even seen House of the Dragon, but I don't know what he's doing tonight, honestly. Do we have a confirmed date for any new Song of Ice and Fire series to air, either House of the Dragon, The Snow Show, or something else? I don't think so, but I could be wrong on that. The only show I really care about is House of the Dragon at the moment. But I don't know. I don't think we've gotten an exact release date. I could be wrong about that. So chat, let me know if I'm wrong about that. But I don't know. Okay, so moving on. So Zol's second question was, what's your most anticipated moment that could be in season 2? I'm personally excited to see the Starks. So again, spoilers. I think mine has to be Blood and Cheese. I'm very interested to see if they're going to go the full dark route of the books, which I just doubt. It's tough because I feel like if we look at season 1 and the evidence they've provided, they have kind of gone away with the cruel violence or the most dark parts that could have been in season 1. That I hope they do it justice. Like, I hope they do how powerful of a scene that's supposed to be. It's kind of like a Red Wedding-esque type scene. That I hope they don't botch it. It's going to be the very beginning of season 2 as well, so that should be probably the part that I'm most excited for in this season, personally. What do you make of how the show... Okay, so this came from Josh Stroven before I continue. What do you make of how the show has portrayed Daemon? I can't help but think of George R. R. Martin's quote that there was never a prince so beloved or so scorned, or something along that line. And that I think that outside of maybe 3 or so moments, Daemon is pretty firmly in the scorned category. I am completely agreeing with you on that, Josh, on that as well. I will get further into your question. I want to respond in chat real quick. I'm really looking forward for your lives about Snow. LOL, I miss Rings of Power for the same reason. Yeah, I don't know. I will, if the Jon Snow show does come out, I will do reviews on it. I don't have high hopes, but yeah. Hey guys, does anyone else have a massive hankering for Aquafina? Hey, dude, okay. This is a little tangent before I go into Josh's question and I answer it. I can't find any Aquafina water at any of the grocery stores around me. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we're not getting it here or what. I don't know. Hi, Ashley. How are you? All right, so let's get into Josh's question. So, Josh basically asks, what is my thoughts on Daemon? And as someone who just got done recording, well, I didn't just get done. I got done, like, finishing touches on it last night. For me, I think they've squandered Daemon as a character. I think it's one of their biggest failures. And I know that, Daemon's kind of a fan favorite, but it's not because of their writing. It's not because of who they've made Daemon out to be. It's one, because Matt Smith is an incredible actor. 2, he's a handsome man. 3, he's just a badass. Now, the problems with this is that they didn't really go into Daemon as a character. What makes him so fascinating? Really, what they did is they looked at all of the rumors we get about Daemon, and they picked the worst route for him possible. Like, what they did basically was they took the Hightower outlook on Daemon and put it in the show. And I don't like that, because I think there's a lot of events in Fire and Blood that Daemon's possibly linked to that I think you can argue he probably wasn't linked to. And there's this idea that it should be a competing of Daemon is this character that is respected. He is someone that inspires loyalty very easily. People follow him a lot. and he's this great military general, someone like Stannis to a degree. He understands warfare really well. And he has his faults, as sometimes he can be cruel. Sometimes he could be involved with some sketchy things. He is involved in the blood and cheese stuff, which we're not going to get too far into, but he's a very morally complex character where we see the good and bad sides of him. And I just feel like they whiffed on that in the show. And you can't really change that now. Like, it's too far gone. Where Daemon, every time he's on screen, it's either him being an asshole, him being violent, him being cruel. It's never the good side of Daemon that we're so used to seeing with other characters. So I personally have not liked the way they have handled Daemon. I feel like Anya Taylor-Joy with dyed black hair would kill it as Sarah Snow. I have no opinion on that. People always ask me casting things for characters. I don't know enough celebrities or actors or actresses to be able to even answer that. I went to your local grocery store and bought it all. Shame on you, Matthew. Apparently there was a scene filmed which revealed Daemon did say the heir for a day comment, but not in the way Otto reported it to Viserys. They cut it, so the technical canon is that Daemon said it cruelly and Otto was being truthful. And that's something I talk about in my Daemon analysis, where I think it's very odd the way everything happens to where the Hightowers are the ones that benefits, especially in the book, where it's like Otto Hightower keeps pushing Daemon out of all of these positions, and then all of a sudden there's this really incredibly stupid thing that Daemon apparently says, and he gets kicked out of the city. And also, it benefits Otto because it gets Rhaenyra to be the heir. Personally, I think if it was said in like an actual canon for the book, it probably was like said drunkenly, or it was said in a way that maybe was altered, so that it made it more insulting to where Viserys got Daemon, or Otto basically got Daemon out of the city through Viserys. Have you ever played GTA San Andreas? There's a guy who works at a grocery store, and I think his name is Zero. I suddenly realized you are him. Oh, I have not. I've only played GTA 4 and 5. I didn't play any of the older ones. Don't worry, Hugo. Hugo, I'm not telling you what happened in the Blood and Cheese event, but it is a major event. Exactly, Ashley, exactly. I'm going to say him killing Lady Rhea was dumb. That did not happen in the books. Otherwise, Reyes will... Yeah, so this is the thing. When Rhea dies in the books, Daemon, by all accounts, is still in the Stepstones with his kingdom in the Stepstones. So the only reason he comes back to Runestone is because he wants to claim it after his wife's death, which doesn't happen, of course. So, again, that's another one of those things where in the book, there doesn't really feel like there's any basis for why Daemon did it, in my opinion. I mean, there is like, oh, he would get Runestone more or less. But Daemon really didn't have, I don't think he had the means to do it. Maybe he did. Maybe he contacted someone to push her off a horse and kill her. I don't know what connections Daemon would have though within the Vale. I don't know. We saw Daemon's good side when he helped Viserys to climb the Iron Throne. Yes, and that's the thing, Joel, is they do it every once in a while. Like in Josh's comment, he said like there were about 3 or 4 times when you could say, yeah, we saw a good side of him, but it just doesn't happen very often, whereas we see the bad side of him all the time. That is also something Ashley points out, that was improvised. That wasn't like written in. That's another good point, Hugo. And I think Hugo goes into the idea that Viserys didn't want to rule. And I think Otto, given all of our faults, like with how he was trying to get more power, did run the kingdoms fairly well. So I think that's kind of why he got the job back. And I agree completely with you, Ashley. I really don't mind spoilers. I read the whole wiki before watching the show. Interesting choice, Hugo, but I'm still going to, stray away from it just from people that maybe don't want that spoiled, I guess. So that will get us to Ramiro Men's question. Will Aemond be shown in a more sympathetic light next season, or will he go fully into his book portrayal? So, this is another interesting question, because Aemond is one of those characters that I liked that we saw more of him. I liked that we saw how he was treated when he was younger and how that impacted his later life. And I like what they did early on with Aemond's character. What I didn't like is the whole, oh, it's an accident thing. And that's going to go into another question later on that I'm going to talk about. So I won't talk about it here, but I will say, I think with what they've built in season 1, I think season 2 is going to go like this. This is the only way this makes sense story-wise, if we're going off of Fire and Blood, how the histories have been altered over time. Is that they say it was an or basically it was an accident, but Aemond, seeing this, is like, okay, if I tell all these people it was an accident, then they know that I'm not controlling Vhagar. Vhagar is controlling me. That will look bad on him and hurt his pride. So what I think Aemond ends up doing is he basically says, yeah, I killed Luke. He was making fun of me. He was talking some shit, so I killed him. And I think the backlash from that, and also kind of his ego being inflated by people like his brother Aegon, who is going to like tell him, yes, that's great. I think that will probably be the tipping point where we'll see more of Aemond leaning into his crueler side or his violent side personally. Otto and Viserys seem to mirror Tywin and Aerys to me. I agree. I think that's a very fair comparison. I think another comparison could be like Robert Baratheon. There's not really the Hand of the King that maybe you'd throw a Jon Arryn in there, but Jon Arryn wasn't really looking to gain more power. But yes, that is a good reference. Plus, Viserys was still sick, so it's probably Alicent that brought him back his hand more than Viserys, but Otto was a good hand despite his hunger for... Yeah, so another thing we could actually point to is that Viserys doesn't want to upset Alicent, right? He's actively trying to get the two families to be happy and all that. So when he dies, there isn't the whole Dance of the Dragon situation. So that could have been another thing where he's like, okay, well, Otto's been gone for a while. Alicent, this is a gesture of good faith. I'm bringing Otto back. To say Otto was a good hand sounds to me like saying Christian was a good Kingsguard. I mean, he failed the basics. I mean, yes and no. Like, I feel like Otto, as in governing the realm, did a fair job. But when it came to his own motivations, he didn't do a solid job. Kristen Cole, for all of that, I mean, in the books, he actually was a solid Kingsguard. Like, yes, he did get involved with Rhaenyra, it would appear, but I mean, he did protect the king and or whoever he was supposed to protect, like Alicent, pretty well for the most part. What do you think of the Laenor death fake out? So I'm going to get into that on another question later on. Personally, it's left me with a lot of questions about how they're going to go forward with the whole series. But we'll talk about that in a second. It's a shame they cut Aemon's fiance, pushing him to kill Luke. Yes, it is a shame they did that. That was another big fault of that. They did Kristen Cole dirty in the show. Yes, they did. They did. I'm not a fan of Kristen Cole regardless, but they definitely did not do a great job. Also, just me, does Harwin Strong kind of come off as a dick? I didn't get that vibe. I feel like in the book, you get more of that vibe from him, but I don't think in the show he came off like that at all. I don't know why the show changed the reason Otto was fired if they were going to give him his job back, because the reason for his dismissal wouldn't have changed. You accuse him of murder, then give. Yeah, it is interesting the way that kind of shifts. Maybe he is very different in the books and the show. Oh yeah, Kristen's terrible in the books. Or not in the books, in the show. In the show, he's irrational. He's just psychotic to a degree. It doesn't really make any sense. Joel, I will have to look into that. All right, so let's continue. So the next question again comes from Josh. How do you think Daeron and Tessarion will be introduced in season 2? And what do you think of the creative decision to withhold this character from season 1? So I think this is a pretty bad decision. It kind of shows me that they were kind of lazy. I think this is one of those characters where maybe they just forgot about him. Because it doesn't make any sense that Alicent has these children, okay, and they're made such a huge focus of the back end of season 1, which they should be. but Daron's not even mentioned. Like, Allison seems like she's disappointed in her children, right? But she never brings up Daron, like, ever. Like, he doesn't exist. It doesn't make any sense. Like, from a human, like, this is the thing with Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon, that's always captured people, is kind of the realism with how characters react to situations, how they interact with other people. It seems very normal, but in this situation, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what should have happened and what I could have seen them doing is that Alicent, maybe at, say, the dinner, maybe when she's talking to Aegon, Aemond, Helena, whoever, says, okay, well, Daron, your brother, is off doing these great things. Why? I just don't understand what the point was there of not introducing him in season 1. It just felt lazy to me, but I don't know. Given the power dynamic, Criston Cole is a traumatized rape victim. You could argue that, but personally, I don't know if I'd go that far. Actually, just stop. It's not happening. We should have seen him at Laena's funeral at the least. I kind of agree. So another thing is, how is he going to be introduced in season 2, and how is that going to work? I think the way this is probably going to be introduced is we see, like, maybe Alicent is like, okay, well, what are we going to do in the South, more or less? Like, they're talking about where their armies are, where their supporters are, and an off comment, maybe by Otto or Alicent, or maybe even Aegon, says, well, Daron can help lead the forces in the South. We can have Ormond. Is that Otto's brother, Ormond Hightower? I'm pretty sure that's his name. Ormond lead the Hightower forces. And then we'll get, like, maybe a cut later on, either in the episode or right after, to Daron, introducing him as a character. Hopefully they spend some good amount of time on him, because he's a very important character, and he hasn't even been introduced yet. So maybe this is a really hot take, but I feel like the show was both padded and rushed. Oh, I agree. I think there were certain times when the show felt like this was unnecessary, like they did something that didn't really need to be there. But also at the same time, I felt as though they went too fast. Like, so my dad, who's a very casual viewer, like, he's watching the first season, he doesn't know anything really about these characters, doesn't know the story. Like, he's on episode 8, and he didn't remember, like, he asked me who my favorite character was, and I said it was Rhaenyra. And he was like, who's that? I'm like, Dad, it's the main character. Like, but even he said, you know, he wasn't a huge fan of how they skipped so much. Like, it kind of felt like the show skipped around so much, which they had to do, but they should have made the season longer. It would have made that much more natural. Because my dad's like main criticism of that was, like, you know, he was just getting into liking these characters, and then everything would kind of switch up almost. And it felt like, as a casual viewer, I guess, that things just changed so much that it was kind of hard to digest as a casual viewer, which I can't blame him on. I mean, he likes the show, right? He likes the show still, but that is his, like, criticisms as a casual viewer. Criston isn't raped. One can even argue he was raped. One can't even argue in a broad sense of the word, but he later wanted more of it and became obsessed. That's the other thing that Hugo is right about. Like, Criston literally wanted to, like, run away with Rhaenyra, so I don't think it was rape. Just looking at his actions afterwards, but I don't know. Only between episodes 2 and 3, and another between 5 and 6. Well, I think it's not even just, like, I think it's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain, man, but I think you're probably right there, that it probably should have been 12 episodes, and then we could have seen that, like, right there, because my thing here is, if they were going to go down this route that everything's an accident, I think you need more time to develop, but I mean, Rhaenyra wasn't going to take a no. I mean, Criston Cole's much bigger than Rhaenyra. He could have just been like, yeah, no. Like, no. Just go away. I mean, like think about it. if you're in a situation that like Kristen Cole, right? It's not like Kristen Cole is just gonna get overwhelmed by Rhaenyra. Like Kristen Cole could have gotten out of the situation. And then he also comes out of it. Well, okay. But Hugo, I think it is. Like, what's Rhaenyra gonna do? Like, say, oh, like, in my opinion, like, I don't know. Rape is bad either way, but I don't think when you look at how Kristen Cole reacts afterwards that he was raped. Like, I think it's one of those situations where in the back of Kristen Cole's mind, he's like, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but at the same time, I want to. That's how I interpret it. And there is that idea that maybe Rhaenyra could have blackmailed him, but I don't know. Like, it's weird when you look at the show's logic on those things, because it's like, okay, would that have gone anywhere? Because Kristen Cole does have certain protections when he kills Laenor's lover. Like, I don't know. It's a tough like way to judge that, because the way I would see it is then, okay, Kristen Cole now becomes an enemy of Rhaenyra because she blackmails him, goes to Alicent, and then we see the whole thing play over again, just in a different light, and why Kristen flips. So I don't know. It is interesting. All right, so let's move on. Which are your greatest fears for next season? And this was asked by yes, my second account or secondary account. Very interesting name. So my concerns, I've talked about them a bit. My main concern, and it's the concern that I think a lot of the Song of Ice and Fire fans have, or people that have read Fire and Blood, is that they're gonna again change things from the book. So, for instance, Laenor being alive is not a thing. It's just not. It's not in the book. It's something they completely made up. It doesn't really make any sense. I don't know how they're going to tie it in, because they're going to have to change some things. They giving this whole idea that the prophecy is the main reason why Alicent makes Aegon the king, and that she was apparently on the fence before this, making characters very one note and not adding to their complexities. These are all some of my greatest worries. I don't want them to just make characters bland. So to me, those are my top concerns. I want them to give an accurate depiction of Dance of the Dragons. You're now in the meat of it, right? Like, there's no more time skips, really. This is the main part you've been trying to build at the entire season 1. Like, this is the moment, right? So I want them to take their time, fully develop characters, and don't feel like we need to have a battle every single episode like the later seasons of Game of Thrones did. And still keep rooted in what this show is, about relationships, about political maneuvering, about things like that. I kind of agree with you on that, Joel. I see your point there, Hugo, on the governor point. The reason they did that is because they don't want to get flack for Burry engagement is so dumb on so many levels, that being not killing Laenor. Maybe. I have no idea on that. But either way, I think it was a very stupid decision. It's a shame we didn't see Harold Westerling at Dragonstone. Him living seemed pointless and kind of a plot hole, not seeing him fight his way out of King's Landing or see him. That's another thing. Just plot holes. At certain times in season 1, we talk about this all the time, especially when I was doing my season reviews. And again, it's been a while since I've watched the season, so I'm not as fresh on some of the plot holes. But the ones that stick clear in my mind, right? Joffrey dying at Laenor and Rhaenyra's wedding. Doesn't make any sense. Kristen Cole should have probably been executed. It didn't make any sense. Like we talked about in chat, Harold Westerling just being let go when he has all of this information that the Greens are trying to keep secret. Doesn't make any sense. There was just a lot of writing flaws. And this isn't to say that I didn't like season 1 or that season 1 was bad. I'm trying to give you guys my exact critiques of what the show could do to be the best it could possibly be. And those are some of the things that I think were not done as well. Lyman Beesbury's death was also really, really dumb. Yeah, I think they could have done that much cooler, but they just did not. Joffrey always dies at weddings. True. All right, so that'll get us to our next question. Sadclown.com says, will Lord Stark play a larger role in House of the Dragon, taking the place of Roddy the Ruin, for example? I think we will see a pretty heavy focus on Lord Stark on the beginning of this season, with Jace trying to negotiate with him and basically gain his respect, and just Jace being up there. I think we will see a good amount of Lord Stark. Will he be a main focus or character, like taking the place of Roddy the Ruin? I don't think so, and I hope not, because I think Lord Stark should be much more of a focus for the later season. This should be kind of building towards who he is as a person and a character for that later parts of the season. So to me, I would lean towards no, but I could see them doing it just because he is a Stark and he's, that name's known by the fan base. I'm still trying to figure out how the pregnant, weakened, and near-death Lena beat Daemon outside of the dragon or any sort of attendant when Daemon was outside the room. Yeah, Ashley, there are some plot holes. Personally loved how they made his death an accident. I could see that. I can see why people like that. Personally, I am not as much of a fan of that decision, but I definitely could see why you like that. With that being said, Disputed Lands, where do you think Aemon's character is going to go now that they've gone down that route? Where do you think that's going to go? Something that I kind of wish they did was focus as much on characters like Aegon and Helena at a younger age. Yeah, because I feel like Aemond is really the character that got all of the spotlight when it came to character growth of those three at a younger age. So I definitely can see where you're coming from on that. People want to see the Starks, expect some fan service to be done to him. Yeah, I agree. I think there will be some extra done to him, but I don't think maybe as major as making him like a Roddy the Ruin character, especially early on in the series. Kristen and Daemon seem to be far gone, but do you believe Aegon can be shown in a more likable light? Personally, no. We are... Okay, unless they deviate from Fire and Blood. But this is the point where Aegon's kind of at no return. Like, Aegon at this point, where he's become king, he's much more ruthless. The power has kind of gone to his head. And that's what I think Season 1 kind of ended off at, where the power is kind of going to his head. And that is what I think should be shown in this next season. I don't think we will see Aegon being more likable. I think he is one of those characters that I think should go into that route, especially with kind of how he ends as a character, right? Unless they're going to change how that goes, he is a character that is inherently not the best dude, which he already isn't. I was wiping the counter, just heard my name. I was talking about Beesbury death. Are we talking about Aemon's now? Yes. I'm interested in your thoughts on why, or not why, but where do you think Aemon's character is going to go after or in season 2? Just because I noted that you said you loved how they made his death an accident. I'm interested to see like where do you think he's gonna go. All right, moving on. Why is Mushroom the most accurate account? Do you think Aegon will become more of the warrior type in season 2, like he's portrayed in the books? What do you think will happen with Harold Westerling's arc from here? Well, let's start on this question. Also came from Mystery Junkie. Also, our last question came from Benito Laverga. I don't know how to say your name. I'm very sorry. I tried my best. But Mushroom, I do not think is the most accurate account. In the show, it kind of seems like it with all of Daemon's stuff. But I would not go that far. Do you think Aegon will become more of the warrior type? I don't think so. I just the way that they've built up his character, I think he'll be more of like an arrogant, like Joffrey type with control of a dragon. And I think that's where he's more going. I don't think they're going to go down that route like he was in the books, but maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong on that. What do you think will happen with Harold Westerling's story arc? I have no idea. I guess he just meets up with Rhaenyra and just becomes one of her Kingsguard. I don't know at this point what's going to go on with that. One mistake they made is that Helena is kind of crazy from the get-go, so we don't really see how... Yeah, so that's another thing I'm interested about Helena is what... Without getting into spoilers, how is she going to change as a character? Or is she going to stay kind of the same, but maybe just more depressed? It's an interesting idea there. I think Aegon will be nothing but a character like Aemond. They can't make him relatable when he hasn't even spoken a word to the main character, his own sister. I think this ship has sailed. I agree. It will be interesting to see how casual fans react to the older Starks who are very honorable but cold and harsh. That is a good point. How will fans react to that? There's much conflicting testimony about Jane Eyre and her sexuality. Do you think they'll lean into her being a lesbian or go the mushroom route? That's a great question. I don't really have an answer for you on that, man. If I had to guess, I would assume they're gonna go the lesbian route, but I don't really think it matters personally. But maybe, I don't know. Okay, Ashley. I don't know. I have no idea how Eric beat Harold to Dragonstone. It makes no sense. Harold's a character that I just don't know where he's going from here. Maybe he's just an advisor to Rhaenyra. Maybe he's a character that's just a Kingsguard. I don't know. Maybe he's like a Barristan type of character to Dany. I don't know. Will we see the 3 Gutter Kings this season? How do you think they will be portrayed? This came from the King of Necro Limbo. And I don't think so. I think we'll see them probably next season, not next season, season 3, if I had to guess. How do I think they're going to be portrayed? That's a tough question. I would assume we're going to have them be kind of more like in the lower class. I don't really know. I don't even know how to answer that, King. Just based on the show, I don't know how to answer that. I don't have a great answer for you on that second part. I don't think we're going to see him in this season, though. I don't know. Chat, let me know what you guys think. How do you think the 3 Gutter Kings will be portrayed? This next question is from Tito Med EXD. Will Helena play a larger role than in Fire and Blood, considering what we have seen thus far? Well, to start with, she doesn't really have a role in Fire and Blood. Like, she's not even barely a character in Fire and Blood. But I would really love if they went further with Helena. Like, they really leaned into the horrors and atrocities that happen in her life that really she can't control. It's because of other people, like her brothers, like her mother, like her uncle. Like, or I guess, would that be her great uncle? I guess it'd be her great uncle. I don't know. I would be interested to see her psyche and like really go into her as a character. I don't know what they're gonna do with kind of like her prophecy stuff, but we'll see. Aemon is going to keep manning up for his brother after the Battle of Tumblin. His brother is going to get fried. The Maesters are going to keep his brother down. All right. What do you think the first scene of season 2 will be, or at least what do you think the first scene should be? The first scene, in my opinion, should be of Rhaenyra basically having a fucking breakdown. That's what the first scene should be. It should be... I could also see it... Okay, I have two. I have 2 scenes I'd really like. One is basically seeing Jace's body and his dragon's body being like dragged somewhere or burned or something. And then that leading into Rhaenyra having a complete and utter mental breakdown. I think those should be the starting of the season. Daemon and Harrenhal would be another good one. With Milk the Poppy, because he's a terrible king, Aemon is going to fill his brother's role while he is recovering. All right, makes sense. In my opinion, the writers had a hard task. They had about 50 pages source material to write 10 hours of TV and fill 25 years of history. And granted, I love season 1. There is missing connections. I agree. And again, don't get me wrong, okay? I think House of the Dragon is pretty good TV. Like, I think just compared to a regular TV show, especially in fantasy or this genre, probably still one of the best we've gotten. I don't rate it that highly. I rate it like an 8, 8.5. But I think it is pretty good. I think there's some great ideas, Disputed Lance. I think that's some great ideas. I actually love Helena in the show. It makes scenes of Aemon. It makes sense if, okay, he is actually kind to her. Yeah, and I really like, there are 2 characters that I really like when you look at the books to the show. In the book Fire and Blood, Viserys and Helena really aren't characters. They're really just not, like, they're not even people, really. And I love that when we look at the show, they really took a chance to kind of develop those characters a bit more, which is something I wish they would have done for our main characters like Daemon and Rhaenyra and Alicent. Actually, Alicent was developed fairly well through the first, again, I say this all the time, the first 8 episodes, and then they just, I don't know, they just did not have, they just goofed up. Hey, Crowfood's daughter is here. All right, fair enough. So you would be meeting Alice as a love interest. Okay, I like that. Thank you for the kind words, Jesse, as well, by the way. I think season 2 will probably be better. I think so, because I hope they learn from some of their mistakes in season 1. They also have a lot more to work with, and they don't have to do as many time skips, so I think season 2 should be pretty good. I will miss Viserys, the only good guy in this show. Yeah, that's a valid opinion. I'm gonna need Mazari to play a much larger role in season 2. I was so underwhelmed by what they did with her in season 1. I agree. Very much agree. I love Laenor so much in the show. His actor, yeah, they did a very good job with Laenor. I also agree, Matthew, that it's kind of like, okay, well, if she's like being able to see shit, like, how is that going to work with what's about to happen? I don't know. Hi, Michael. How are you? Season 1 was mainly build up, in my opinion. Season 2 and so on will be where we get all their GOT viewership back. Hopefully they don't rush too much. Lots of key events should happen that will be so shocking. Yes, agreed. Like I talked about, there's a moment in this season that if you don't see it coming is on the level of the Red Wedding. Maybe not as impactful as the Red Wedding, but it's like right there. You also have like some major battles that are awesome. There's just some really great things that are going to happen in season 2 and season 3. Moving on. This is a very interesting name. I have no mouth and I must drink. That is from who the question is from. I appreciate the name. How will Rhaenyra and Alicent interact next season? Some pretty dark stuff coming on the horizon. Personally, I actually don't think they're going to interact at all. So maybe that's a stretch. I know a lot of people think that the ending of season 2 could be a certain event. But I don't think so. I think that's going to be pushed to season 3. But it could happen at the end of season 2. I don't know. But when they do meet each other, we have to think about what's the context, right? What is the context? These 2 characters are going to be vastly different. Rhaenyra already now is going to be crediting Alicent's children for killing her son. It's not going to be a happy reunion. So let's put it that way. It's going to be a very dark moment where these 2 characters, when they next meet, are going to want to kill each other. I mean, we haven't even seen, and we'll even see more things for why Alicent's going to be pissed off. But as of right now, it's not going to be a happy reunion. Yeah, let's put it that way. I have seen Laenor compared to Prince Eric in The Little Mermaid. Interesting. Hi, Josh. I answered your questions at the more of the beginning of the stream, so if you want to see those, I would go back a little bit. But thank you for your questions. Thank you for everybody that put questions in here. I could not see that, Matthew. I'm just gonna say yeah, I'm gonna just point that out. I do not think that's gonna happen, but I don't know. So the next question actually comes from Man in the Wall. He is in the stream, or he was in the stream, and he asked a very interesting question. What do you think season 2 should end with? So this is a tough one because there's a couple of places you could end it at without getting into spoilers. Okay. I think the Battle of the Gullet would be a pretty good place to end season 2. I also think a certain castle being taken would be a good spot for it to end. So again, I think those two are very good spots for it, but I don't know. Let me know, okay, in your most non-spoilerly comments as possible, where do you guys think? I think those two would be solid spots to end, but I don't know. So moving on, we have Dark Souls 2 is Supreme, someone that always puts a comment in these Q&As, which I appreciate. How will they show Blood and Cheese and another event that involves one of the high towers? Let's put it that way. Those scenes surpass anything we have seen portrayed in Game of Thrones. And he is completely correct. He or she or whatever. They are completely correct. There are some things that that happen in the Dance of the Dragons or Fire and Blood that are probably much worse than we've seen in Game of Thrones or even A Song of Ice and Fire. And I don't know. I'm a bit scared because I think they should go the whole route with those events. But I think they may dumb them down a little bit. I don't think they'll maybe have them be as violent. But who knows? I could be wrong on that. Personally, that's the way I think that's going to happen. Yeah, we're not talking about Rook's Rest yet, Ashley. I'm not ready for that. What if Cregan Stark got his way and all the... That would be a very interesting idea, but you would have a lot of revolts, Joel. A lot of revolts. Rhaenyra's Ascension. I think that is where I think a lot of people think it will end. In season 2, I don't know if I'd go that far, because there is a lot of stuff that happens in between where we are and that. But I don't know. I think I'm going to have to reread Fire and Blood. My memory is foggy on the dance after season 1. I think that's kind of how I am as well. But with all of the content I've been doing, focusing like the Valarians, the High Towers, I have like gotten back kind of up to speed with it again. But to me, I personally don't see that happening, Matthew, with what you suggested. Late to the stream, thanks for sharing my question and elaborating on your take with it. No problem, Josh. That, you know, I like doing these. They're pretty easy on me, and you guys, you know, asking me questions makes it pretty easy. So I appreciate your questions as always. Hi, Ghost. How are you? Super interested, can't speak. Super interested to see what they do with Laenor. Also, what do you think was the point of showing Daemon with Vermithor was for? I'm still confused about. That. Also, did Rhaenyra drink the tea? I don't know, Thee. I think she did, but I don't know. I think Daemon going to Vermithor is foreshadowing to maybe the Dragon Seeds plot. That would be my best guess there. I'm gonna get to hold on. Let me see when the Laenor question is. Because we'll do the Laenor question next because I know a lot of people have questions about it. So Smoke Salesman Bielza asked, obligatory Laenor and Sea Smoke question here. Ha ha ha. So, yeah, there's a problem we have here. So for people that don't know, this is spoilers, but it's not like too big of spoilers. There are two characters, and specifically one of them, I'm not going to say names so I don't spoil it too bad, that one of them ends up becoming a dragon seed, which means they are able to claim one of the dragons, and one of these said dragons is Sea Smoke. So how's that going to work if Laenor is still alive? Will Sea Smoke just take another rider? Seems kind of weird, seeing as though we've kind of started this whole that the dragons and the rider have a like connection. How is that gonna work with Laenor still being alive? I don't know. It's a massive plot hole. I don't know how you would then maybe reintroduce Laenor later in the story if they're gonna go that route. If Laenor is going to die, I don't know why you would then have him not die in season 1. Maybe they give him a heroic moment and he just dies again. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know what the point of that was. But I don't know. I don't know. So, let's move back up. So, we've got Ashley. You know, Ashley the goat in chat. Not sure how to word this concisely, but I'll try. While there's definitely a sexist undercurrent to Rhaenys being repeatedly denied her birth, I think there's more factors at play than just sexism, chiefly that the crown didn't want her husband Corlys to amass the levels of power he'd have should his wife become queen. However, if this was the crown's concern, I'm left wondering why Jaehaerys personally approved of Rhaenys' marriage in the first place. For him to do that only to use it against Rhaenys later as grounds for denying her throne has always rubbed me the wrong way. Unless Jaehaerys did this intentionally to circumvent the issue of a ruling queen, but that doesn't make sense either because Jaehaerys had a great relationship with Rhaenys, so I don't believe he'd purposely screw her over. Does this really matter in the grand scheme of things? Probably not, but I'd be nagging at me nonetheless. What do you think, Reese? Why would Jaehaerys approve Rhaenys' marriage only to later weaponize it against her? It's not like Corlys was a nobody and became powerful after he married Rhaenys. He was that dude from the start. So, where I would go with this is that, one, I don't think that Jaehaerys thought Rhaenys was going to be in a position to, like, become the person in charge. So I don't think, like, right away that was a thought in his mind. And two, so another thing here is that I think it makes sense from the idea that the Targaryens, like, keeping their blood in the family. Like, the Velaryons are very close to House Targaryen. We see it all the time. They look the same. That was another factor that I think led him to approve it. And another thing is that Corlys being the man he was, it's better to have him on your side in, like, with your family than marrying somebody else and possibly going with, like, a family like the Hightowers, for instance. I think that is another reason. Another thing I wanted to talk about, because I think there's a lot of layers to this question, Ashley, is that I also think when you look at the issue of who is to come after Jaehaerys, when you think about all the great things Jaehaerys did, this was not one of them. Jaehaerys putting it to this great council really just put all of the blame off of himself. He gave himself an out on he didn't have to make this decision of, well, how should we do the kingdom? Should it be the oldest woman? Or should it be always the male heir? How does that work? Really what Jaehaerys did is he took all the blame and responsibility off himself and said, okay, you guys figure it out. If you make the wrong decision, well, you guys fucked up. That's basically what he did. Right? So, we then look at the idea that, okay, he probably knew that if Rhaenys was to become queen, there was going to be issues, regardless. Like, there was going to be an issue, because then you're going to have this idea where people are going to be debating this issue of all time. What Jaehaerys probably should have done, right, is he should have just made a decision. He should have just ruled, put it into law, that either we're doing Dornish law, or we're doing the male heir comes first. He should have just ended it right then and there. But he didn't. He kicks the can down, and it's up to interpretation. Because this great council, it's something that we can look at, okay, well, they ruled in the past that the male should go first. But it's not like a rule. It's not set in stone on the throne. Right? So it kind of leaves it open to interpretation, like Viserys does with Rhaenyra. Now, there's other reasons as to why Rhaenyra gets made the heir, and it's mainly because Daemon gets outed, and also the lack of heirs for Viserys. But he really just kicked down the can, and Jaehaerys is partially responsible for the Dance of the Dragons. I think you're right there, Ashley, that I'm pretty sure the Macers did suggest this. Was she married to Corlys before Jaehaerys died or after? Let's look that up. Let's look this up here. Let's do some research, because this is a fascinating question that you brought up, Ashley. Corlys and Rhaenys marriage year. If I can find it. Let's go to Corlys. What year was he married to Rhaenys? So, okay, in 90 AC. Okay. Let's then look when Jaehaerys' children died. What year did his children die? Let me just go to the family tree so I can look it up. Let's see. Where is Jaehaerys? Okay. Give me a second, lads. I'm doing a little bit of research here. I'm not getting the answer the best. Hi, Ramira. I also answered your question earlier if you'd like to go back for that. Hold on, lads. I'm doing my best to find the answers here. Okay, so Aemon, when did he die? So yeah, Aemon was still alive. Aemon was still alive during this time. So yes, Jaehaerys' male heirs were still alive at this point. When Rhaenys and Corlys are married, Jaehaerys is not worrying about succession. His succession is firmly in his grasp at this point. So, again, that's another idea of why he would have approved it, Ashley, is that he didn't have this idea on his mind yet. So, I think that really makes sense. No problem, Miro. Thank you for the question, as always. But yeah, that is kind of our whole thing. So, long story short, Jaehaerys probably wasn't thinking about succession at this point, and also it's a very advantageous marriage politically as well. So, this comes from Tywinette Lannister. I always struggle on the last name. Always putting in questions. Appreciate you. Which scenes from the books you see being removed and which being made only for the show? So I think for the show, we have to get some sort of scenes with Laenor. It just because they've opened that plot, I think it has to. Other scenes that we didn't see in Fire and Blood. Aemond. I've talked about this early on that we need to see what he is going to tell his family and why. Like, what is the driving motive behind whether Aemond is going to say, yes, I killed Luke, or no, it was an accident. We need to see more into that. I think we probably are going to get a lot more Daemon than we actually saw in Fire and Blood. Just based upon he's a fan favorite. So I think there'll be added scenes in there. I think we'll see a little bit later on, we'll see more of Daemon and Nettles. There'll be much more added scenes there to kind of establish whatever their relationship actually was. Other scenes that are going to be added. I don't know about added. Also, hi, Ethan. How are you? Hope you're having a great day. We're also going to get more scenes with Jace and how he goes to the Vale in the north. We're going to see more of that. Have a great night, by the way, Disputed. Thank you for stopping in. We're also probably going to see more of Helena, and I hope we do. Anything else that I want to throw out here? I think that's all for the added. Now, removed. What do I think is going to get removed? I think to the extent Blood and Cheese will... Some of the things will be less brutal. than it was in the book. I think those events where it was like things that are really cruel that maybe aren't great for television, those things could be retracted. I don't know what else though they're going to retract. I don't feel like you need to retract anything, so I don't know. I'd be interested to see what you guys think. I think it's always best to have a clear inheritance line, even if you have a lot of sons, because you never know what exactly goes. And this is the thing. So I'm going to relate this to real world stuff, because that's what I think makes the best analogies. When you think about the inheritance, right? Nobody really establishes it well. Like, we had already a war based upon Maegor and who comes after Aenys. So to me, this should have been an issue that Jaehaerys should have fixed. Like, he should have put in place who is going to rule just for the future generations, even if he thought his line was secure. And he didn't. He just never did that. And that was one of his greatest faults, in my opinion. But as I was saying, so when you look at how Jaehaerys kicks it down the can on the idea of who should be ruling, right? Should it be the oldest male? Should it be Dornish law? It's very similar to American politics. American politics, for a long while, there was this period where the issue of slavery was just kicked the can down because it was such a difficult topic that you knew was going to incite some issue. And that's exactly what Jaehaerys is in on this problem. And we all know slavery is terrible, and it should have been handled a lot earlier. But it exploded in everyone's faces, the Civil War. It's the same idea here, where this idea of succession explodes in everybody's face in the Dance of the Dragons. So that'd be the way I would look at that situation. Anyone see the Skylink launch? I did not, Josh. I did not. Jaehaerys tried. He just keeps getting daughters. This is true. Imagine if Wyman Manderley had just had one more son who was an adventurer, or who was as adventurous as Corvus Flaren, and had already made trading voyages to make the Manderleys the richer than the Lannisters by Game of Thrones. That would, I mean, the Manderleys are already pretty rich, but you are correct. I think the line of succession was already clear, but because of Corvus's meddling caused problems for Jaehaerys. I agree to disagree, though, Matthew, because it wasn't set in stone. Like, there was no... It was like, yes, preferably, it would go to your son. Preferably. But then you come to this idea where, okay, your sons die. Does it go to your granddaughter by your first son? Does it go to your grandson? They should have just made it a clear and distinctly written down in the laws of Westeros that this is how we're going to do it. It shouldn't have been left up to interpretation. I've got a what-if scenario for the main series. Drop it, Josh. Drop it. Let me know what you got here. So we have another question on, like, when will season end? I had two people that asked that, so I've already addressed that, but thank you for the question, Rumunan? I'm not sure how to say your name, but I hope you liked my response in the other question that had the same thing. And the last question is going to be Jan Woter. Will they change Alicent's treatment when Rhaenyra does something? I won't spoil it. It's quite disgusting, and they're trying to paint Rhaenyra as a good guy. So personally, I hope not. I hope they lean into Rhaenyra just being an absolute bitch to Alicent, because it just makes sense. Like, with how their characters are heading, I hope they don't. Do I think they may? Possible. I think it's very possible. But personally, I would say no. I don't want them to. But I don't know. Let me know what your opinion is on that, Jan, if you do see this. Greece, that's a really good comparison. The start behind the Civil War and the Dance of the Dragons is similar. Yes, different, like, problems, but the same idea of people not handling said issues that leads to this growing tension between two different sides, that inevitably you can't solve the issue anymore. The issues, it's been kicked down to the can too far now that it just takes one domino and everything falls. So if you guys have any other questions, now would be the time, because I'm out of questions on YouTube. So we are probably towards the end of the stream. So if you guys have anything else you want to ask me, put it in the chat. Or this could be about anything. It really doesn't gonna be House of the Dragon related, but you know, let me know what if you guys have anything before we head out of here. And for the first time on stream, every time after stream, I look at my teacup and I don't get all the way done. I have finally finished my whole cup of tea during a stream. I do think it's partly because these Q&As are much more laid back, that I have more time to kind of just like look at chat, sip my tea a little bit. Whereas like other stuff like tier lists and stuff like that, I'm much more like hands-on involved in. And yeah, so that also, we'll just say for people that didn't see the community post, didn't have a video this weekend. The Damon video I was doing took much longer than I thought. So it's probably going to be out Wednesday. I'm going to do my rereading Tuesday. And then you guys will get 2 videos on Thursday and then probably Saturday. So a lot more videos this week because I missed an upload last week. So yeah, I just want to point that out as well. But I think that is going to be where I end out the stream. So yeah, thank you all for joining the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed the Q&A. And I will see you guys all in the next stream. Bye, guys. And I hope you guys have a